Robert Harrison stood at the window of his Manhattan penthouse. Watching the city lights blur through tears he refused to shed. At 52, he'd built an empire in commercial real estate. Accumulated more wealth than 3 generations could spend, yet none of it could fix what mattered most. His twin daughters, Emma and Lily, were 7 years old. Beautiful girls with golden curls and bright eyes that should have sparkled with childhood joy. Instead, they moved through their days in silence, their laughter absent, their words trapped somewhere he couldn't reach. The specialists in Boston want to see them next month. His assistant reminded him that morning. Boston would be the 14th city, the 23rd set of doctors. Robert had spent nearly $2 million seeking answers, flying to renowned medical centers across 3 continents. The diagnosis was always the same: selective mutism, developmental delays of unknown origin. The prognosis remained frustratingly vague. His wife, Catherine, had left 2 years ago. "I can't watch you throw money at a problem that might not have a solution," she'd said, her own grief hardening into something cold. "Maybe you need to accept them as they are." But acceptance felt like giving up. And Robert Harrison had never given up on anything in his life. That's when Margaret O'Connor arrived. She was 61, with silver hair, pulled back in a practical bun and warm brown eyes, that had seen enough of life to understand its complications. She came to the interview in a simple cardigan and sensible shoes, carrying references from families in Brooklyn and Queens, nothing fancy, nothing that would typically impress a man of Robert's standing. "I've been caring for children for 38 years, Margaret said simply when he asked about her qualifications. "I don't have fancy degrees or certificates in the latest theories, but I know how to listen, Mr. Harrison. And sometimes that's what children need most." Something in her steady gaze made him hire her on the spot. Margaret moved into the guest suite on a gray October morning, while Robert prepared for another round of medical consultations. This time with a neurological team in Philadelphia, Margaret quietly observed the twins. She noticed things others had missed. The way Emma's fingers moved in patterns against her leg when she was anxious. How Lily's eyes tracked every sound in a room, processing everything with an intensity that seemed exhausting. She saw children who weren't broken or delayed, but overwhelmed, carrying a burden too heavy for their small shoulders. "Mr. Harrison," Margaret said on her 3rd evening, finding him in his study reviewing medical reports. "May I ask you something?" He looked up, tired. "Of course." "When did the girls stop talking?" "Around age 4. Catherine and I had just started having problems. The doctors think the stress—" "And before that? What were they like?" Robert's expression softened, memory bringing light to his features. "Chatty, especially Emma. She narrated everything she did. Lily was quieter, but she sang constantly. Little made-up songs about everything she saw." Margaret nodded slowly. "And your wife? How did she speak to them?" The question landed like a stone in still water. Robert set down his pen. "Catherine has high standards. She came from old money, certain expectations about how children should behave. She thought I was too soft with them." His voice dropped. "She could be critical. Nothing was ever quite good enough." "I see," Margaret said gently. "Mr. Harrison, I wonder if we might try something different. Instead of more doctors, more tests, more trying to fix what might not be broken, what if we simply gave them permission to be exactly who they are?" Robert felt a flash of frustration. "You think I haven't tried that? Every therapist says to be patient, create a safe space, don't pressure them. I've done all of that. Have you?" Margaret's question was kind but direct. "Or have you created a different kind of pressure? The pressure to get better? To improve, to become what they once were so you can stop worrying?" The words struck deep. Robert opened his mouth to argue, then slowly closed it. Margaret continued, her voice gentle. "Children feel everything we feel, even what we don't say. If Emma and Lily sense that their silence causes you pain, that every quiet day is another failure, another problem to solve, well, speaking becomes harder, doesn't it? The stakes are too high." That night, Robert couldn't sleep. He walked to the twins' room and stood in the doorway, watching them sleep in their matching white beds. When had he last simply enjoyed them? When had he stopped seeing his daughters and started seeing only their diagnosis? The next morning, Margaret asked if she could take the girls to Prospect Park. Robert almost said no. What about their music therapy session? But something made him agree. They were gone for 4 hours. When they returned, both girls had grass stains on their knees and leaves in their hair. Emma was clutching a smooth gray stone, and Lily had a small bag of acorns. "We had an adventure," Margaret announced. "Found a creek, saw a blue jay's nest, and discovered that acorns make excellent treasures. Isn't that right, girls?" Neither child spoke, but both nodded, their eyes brighter than Robert had seen in months. Over the following weeks, Margaret transformed their home in subtle ways. The schedule of therapies and exercises gave way to simple routines. Breakfast together, time in the park, baking cookies, reading stories. She never pressured the girls to speak, but talked to them constantly in her warm, unhurried way, narrating the day as if their silence was perfectly natural. "Emma, would you hand me the blue mixing bowl?" "Thank you, sweetheart." "Oh, Lily, you're right. We do need more flour. You have such a good eye." She responded to their gestures, their expressions, their small sounds as if they were complete sentences. And gradually, the tension that had lived in their small shoulders began to ease. One evening, Margaret asked Robert to join them for dinner. Not in the formal dining room, but in the cozy breakfast nook. No phones, no distractions. "Tell me about your day, Mr. Harrison," she said as she served pot roast. He started to give his usual brief summary, then caught her meaningful look. She wanted him to really share, to model the kind of open communication she was nurturing. "Well," he began slowly, "I had a difficult negotiation today. There's a property in Queens I've been trying to acquire for 2 years, and today the owner finally agreed to sell. I should be thrilled, but honestly, I keep thinking about his face. He's selling because he's ill and needs the money for treatment. It doesn't feel like a victory." Emma was watching him intently. Robert continued, surprising himself. "Sometimes I wonder if I'm in the right business. Building empires, making deals, what does it really matter? What am I building that will last?" He looked at his daughters. "You two matter. You're what lasts." Lily reached across the table and touched his hand. Just for a moment, but it was there. Connection, pure and simple. "That's a beautiful thought, Mr. Harrison," Margaret said softly. The weeks turned into months. Robert canceled the appointments in Philadelphia, then the ones in Seattle. He started coming home earlier, joining Margaret and the girls for their afternoon walks. He learned to sit quietly with his daughters, playing simple games, reading stories, not waiting for them to suddenly speak, but simply being present. One December evening, as the first snow began to fall, the 4 of them sat around the fireplace. Margaret was teaching the girls to make paper snowflakes, her patient hands guiding their scissors. "My grandmother taught me this when I was about your age," she said. "We'd make hundreds of them and hang them all over the house. She said each one was unique, just like each person, no two exactly alike, and all of them beautiful." Emma held up her snowflake, its pattern delicate and intricate. Margaret smiled. "Just perfect, sweetheart. Just exactly perfect as it is." Robert felt something shift in his chest, a releasing, a letting go. "Margaret," he said quietly, "I owe you an apology. When you first suggested I stop trying to fix them, I thought you didn't understand, but you understood better than anyone. They were never broken. I was just looking at them the wrong way." Margaret's eyes glistened. "You love them, Mr. Harrison. You've always loved them. You were just scared, like any father would be. But love isn't about fixing, it's about accepting, about seeing who someone really is and treasuring that." That night, after the girls were in bed, Robert found Margaret in the kitchen, preparing their lunches for the next day. "I need to tell you something," he said. "The truth is, I think I knew. Deep down, I think I always knew that Catherine's criticism, her constant corrections, her disappointment, I think I knew it was affecting them. But I didn't want to face that I'd let it happen, that I'd chosen my marriage over protecting them. So I threw money at doctors instead of dealing with the real problem." Margaret set down the sandwich she was making. "Mr. Harrison, Robert, we all make mistakes. We all have moments we wish we could redo. The question is what we do next." "What should I do next?" "Keep doing what you're doing now. Keep showing up. Keep listening. Keep loving them without conditions. Children are resilient. They can heal when they feel safe." On Christmas morning, Robert gave the girls just one gift each. Simple journals with blank pages and colored pencils. "For whatever you want to put in them," he said. "Pictures, thoughts, feelings, anything at all. There's no right or wrong way to use them. Lily took hers and immediately began to draw. Emma held hers against her chest like a treasure. That afternoon, as Margaret prepared Christmas, dinner and the girls played with their new art supplies, Emma came to Robert's study. She stood in the doorway, her journal in hand, and he looked up. "Hi, sweetheart. Want to come in?" She nodded and approached his desk. Then very carefully she opened her journal and showed him what she'd drawn. 3 figures, 2 tall, 1 shorter, holding hands. Above them she'd written in careful letters, "My family." Robert's eyes burned. "That's beautiful, Emma. Is that you, me, and Lily?" She shook her head and pointed. The 3 figures were herself, Lily, and Margaret. Then she flipped the page. On the next page was another figure, standing separate but with lines drawn from him to the others, connecting but apart. She pointed to it, then to him. The message was clear. This is where you've been, but this is where we are. You can join us, but only if you truly see us. "You're right," Robert whispered. "I've been standing apart, haven't I? Watching, worrying, but not really being with you." He looked at his daughter. "Can I join you? Can I be part of the family again?" Emma studied him with those serious eyes, then slowly nodded. She took a colored pencil and carefully drew the 4th figure into the circle, holding hands with the others. Robert pulled her into his arms, and for the first time in years, she melted into the embrace instead of holding herself stiff. In the kitchen doorway, Margaret watched and smiled. Spring arrived, bringing warmth and new growth to the city. The girls still rarely spoke, but their silence had transformed from something heavy and anxious into something peaceful. They communicated through gestures, drawings, expressions, and occasionally, in quiet moments, in whispers so soft they were almost imagined. One April morning, Robert found Margaret packing her bags. "What are you doing?" "Are you leaving?" She turned with a gentle smile. "My work here is done, Robert. You don't need me anymore." "That's not true. The girls have their father back. They're healing. They'll speak again when they're ready, but that's not what matters anymore. You understand that now?" Robert felt panic rising. "Please stay. Name your price. Whatever you want." Margaret took his hands. "I don't want your money, dear. I want you to remember what you've learned. That the people we love don't need to be fixed or changed or improved. They need to be seen, truly seen, and loved for exactly who they are. But you've become family, and family doesn't end just because I'm not under your roof. I'll visit. I'll always be a phone call away. But you 3 need to stand on your own now. Find your own rhythm together." The girls cried when she left, but they were healing tears. The kind that come from feeling deeply, not from being wounded. That evening, Robert sat with Emma and Lily on the couch. No television, no distractions, just the 3 of them in the quiet apartment. "I want to tell you something," he said. "I'm sorry. I'm sorry for all the doctors, all the tests, all the pressure to be different than you are. You 2 are perfect. Not perfect like flawless, but perfect like exactly who you're meant to be. And I love you. Not if you start talking more, not if you change. Just you, right now as you are." Lily leaned against his shoulder. Emma reached for his hand. And in the gentlest voice, like a bird trying its wings after a long winter, Lily whispered, "We love you too, Daddy." Emma echoed, just as softly, "We love you too." Robert's tears came freely then, but they were good tears, the kind that wash away old pain and make room for new joy. The girls didn't suddenly start chattering after that. Their speech remained quiet, selective, emerging only when they felt truly safe. But it was enough. More than enough. Because Robert had finally learned what Margaret had known all along. The greatest gift we can give those we love is not to fix them or change them or mold them into who we think they should be. The greatest gift is acceptance, to see them fully, love them completely, and trust that who they are is exactly who they're meant to be. Sometimes healing doesn't look like solving a problem. Sometimes it looks like finally putting down the burden of trying to solve it. And sometimes the cure we seek isn't found in medicine or therapy or expertise. It's found in the simple, radical act of love without conditions, the kind of love that says, "You are enough. You have always been enough, and I will spend the rest of my days making sure you know it." That's the truth Margaret had shown him. The truth that finally set them all free.